Hello, everyone. Welcome back, Farai, and welcome back to audience. We are now in the series two. We're going to talk about mentorship, right? So this is going to be a four-part series. The first episode, we're going to talk about why mentorship. The second, we're going to talk about initiating relationship. The third one, we're going to talk about nurturing, and the fourth one, we're going to talk about
Communication.
communication, right?
Mm.
So today, we're going to talk about why mentorship, right?
Mm.
So I feel like just to start with the context, right? Here at Shasha Network, right, we believe that the core of mentorship is not networking but building relationships, right? So we're going to talk about why is it important to build relationship, right? Which is the core element of our mentorship, right? So the first question we're going to talk about is what are the type of relationships that are involved, right?
Mm.
So Farai, what are the two types of relationships that are involved?
I think when it comes to mentorship, there are personal and professional relationships.
Yes.
Both ways count.
Yeah.
You can have all types of mentors at either of those, uh, in either of those categories. Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna the personal and professional relationships, right? What is even important now is why should we have those personal and professional relationships? And I'll talk about the personal part, right?
Mm.
I feel like we've talked about self leadership and understanding yourself and values,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I feel like that is sort of like what we call the compass, your compass, right? Your values, your interest, your personality, and the strength. Now, when you go outside, you need what you call the GPS, which is the external part, right?
Mm.
That's when you have to look for the people and the relationships, right? So part of it is having personal relationship. Personal relationship are whereby the people that you can align with at a more personal level, at a more intimate level. Those are like the day-to-day people that you can talk to, right? We can talk about someone you can talk on WhatsApp every time. How are you? Good morning, and all. And those people really satisfy, sort of like our personal needs and our personal wants, right? In terms of what we get from others, in terms of actually the social capital, right? And it is important to have those people because we are humans, right? We have the emotional side of it, right?
Yeah. Social
And
creatures.
yeah, yeah. So I feel like if that emotional side of it, you also need sort of like someone, it's sort of like that emotional part. It may be your friend, it may be your someone, you're close to, and it may be also those people that were brought out by nature, your parents, your family, These are all part of the personal relationship and they help you grow, right? So Farai will talk more about that professional relationship, which is very important part of mentorship.
For the bridge program specifically, I think one of the things that we sat down and thought about is going back to the basics of who we are as human beings and the things that drive us. There's this idea of socializing and connecting and building relationships. And
Yes.
in at any stage of a career, no matter where you are in the world, every transition requires you to make decisions, whether you're transitioning from high school to college or from college into like an internship or the world of work, or even when you're in the world of work and you're transitioning from one particular department to another or one particular organization to another, or you're transitioning up within an organization from like an entry level to the next managerial level. There's always going to be transitions, and I think mentors are very instrumental in holding your hand through the process of transition and even making you thrive at that next layer of growth, because you want someone that has walked the path, right? So imagine going into a place where you've never been there, but you're supposed to get to a particular destination, but you don't know the rivers and animals and all sorts of elements between you and your goal that you could have sort of like avoided if you had that professional support. So this comes from, peers in the workspace. It can come from your manager or your boss. Um, it's all about being able to then grow those professional relationships, which are, getting to know and talk to people and connect with people that aren't necessarily your close buddies or your family or your friends. They can be both, but they're people that you rely on to either grow or develop your professional side of life, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But there's no distinction. There's always a thin line between both. So it depends with how you choose to navigate them.
Thank you for that. So if we establish the importance, the general importance of having a mentorship, whether a personal or a professional, right? So we have to move on to the concept of fit and then outcome, right?
Mm,
So I'll start by sort of like in form of a story, right?
mm,
In my personal relationship part. So one personal relationship, I've had many personal relationships,
mm,
but I think one which is one which has been played a crucial point in my life is the one which I had with Munjoma, who was sort of like my schoolmate from primary
mhm.
up to until we separated in college, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like from primary up to high school, like that personal relationship was based on the fit part was based on that we had similar things we liked, right? For example, I realized the power of education
Mhm.
in the pursuit of our goals. We understood the power of going out there, maybe quiz, maybe debate, right? But our relationship was not only based because we love the same things, therefore, yeah, we are buddies, right? But also we had different personalities, right? I was more of the extrovert, the out there, and he was more of the introvert, right? So that diversity in terms of personality helped us maybe to have accountable each other. There's sometimes whereby I would go overboard, then he would sort of like be the neutral guy.
Mhm.
There's sometimes whereby he needs to amplify his voice and then I would amplify on his behalf, right? So there was that beauty in terms of the diversity, but in terms also of the fit, in terms of like the overarching goals, right? So I think that is what is important when you are looking at fit. You don't only have to look for people who have similar things with you because you won't learn anything, but also sort of like look for things with different traits with you, which provide the checks and balances, right? And the outcome of that relationship was basically that we provided ourselves sort of like a personal support structure, right? Whereby when at a point in time whereby, for example, I achieved something, right? The way Kuzo would see that achievement was not out of envy, but it was of like a sort of like inspiration. Like then he would go on to do the same thing or do something else, but still that inspiration, right? And when he achieved something, I also had that inspiration effect, right? So the outcome was that we inspired each other and we strive to actually to do more and more things. And even there are times whereby, the bad times, the times of failure, right?
Mhm.
You always had someone who would be like, it's okay, who would comfort you, encourage you, and make you stronger, right? So those are outcomes of strength, outcomes of resilience, and outcomes of inspiration, right? So Farai, may you please share about the fit and outcome in the context of a professional relationship?
I think just back to, you know, what you're talking about, that it's possible to have a peer as a mentor,
Yes.
who plays that cheerleader aspect, who plays that supportive aspect. You definitely
Exactly.
don't want a peer mentor who, you come to and you're like, oh, I achieved this, and they're like, oh, but I achieved something that is 10 times bigger than yours. You know,
Yeah.
it's not normal, but we have these kind of relationships. But I think if you've got the right peer who's there to support you, like what TK said, and they're able to be a soundboard for your ideas, then you get to build on each other and grow.
Yeah.
Similarly, in a professional setting, you are on a journey to be a leader, whether within an organization or within a particular industry. And one of the professional relationships that I've had, which has even translated to becoming a personal relationship, is my relationship with Fiona Martin. So I
Yeah.
first met Fiona Martin when she was working at the African Leadership Academy, and I was a student the soon after getting my admission after Anzisha. And I told her about what we're doing at Shasha, And trust me, this was back in 2016. And we designed the first version of a mock mentorship board,
Yeah.
which was the first idea that we're working on. Because Fiona had, worked with young people with African Africa Career Network, which provides young people access to internships across Africa.
Yeah.
And here we were at Shasha trying to conceptualize something specifically for young people who are looking to make transitions, not into the workspace, but into like colleges, but some thinking about that as the next step. So she sort of like became that person that would ask the tough questions and say, Farai, how are you thinking about incorporating this into Shasha's future? And it took 3 years for us to get to actually launching this particular project, right? But in those 3 years, though we didn't have a right now tangible outcome of what needs to be done, it was a process of creating that relationship and that trust and that rapport when it comes to saying, okay, these are the trends. So if ever Fiona reads an article from International Labour Organization, she's going to send an email and say, Farai, have you read about this? If I read something, we're going to be exchanging information. And that way you learn to, you grow and you get to ask that question and learn from each other and sort of like take notes. So professionally, the outcome of that has been, getting to build the Shasha Bridge program and getting to create a good experience, which, people have been able to join and get value from. But the time aspect of it has been very important to realize that sometimes these mentorship relationships, especially the professional working space, first require you to build the trust, the rapport, to bring the credibility and the track record. Because in the professional space, someone is going to ask you to be recommended to an opportunity.
Yeah.
And your mentor is the one person that can say something about who you are and the value that you specifically bring to the table. You're not going to be asked to ask your mother to write a recommendation for a job somewhere.
Yeah.
They're going to ask people that you've worked with in a professional setting. That's why it's always important in that professional setting to have what it's called also reverse mentorship. So the
Yes.
older individual, getting information from the young individual, vice versa. So that's how mentorship works in a professional setting. So it's not one-sided. It's not you saying, oh, I want the MD or the director or the CEO to be my mentor and they have to open the door for me and they have to do this thing for me. It's always asking yourself, what can I contribute to this relationship? And then
Yeah,
it's a back and forth.
that's important. I think we also deep dive when we're talking about the nurturing the leadership part.
Mhm.
But I think in this episode, we have established the importance of mentorship, and also we've talked about the concept of PM mentorship, which is a very important concept in such a bridge program. We also talked about professional mentorship. So the next question is, how do we start mentorship, right? So we're going to talk about this in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Farai, for joining.
Great, thank you.